Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin Candland. I'm here with Leslie Davis. She is the author of You Can't Eat Love, and I am so happy to have her on today. She's one of the other people that I was planning to interview back in like May, and then I like slept in and that fell apart. And she just responded so kindly and just said, like, keep being honest and keep like doing your thing. So Leslie, like what prompted you to be like that extra level, I guess, of kindness, going that extra mile with that response to my blunder.
Well, I realize, funnily enough, and that is a crazy word and it sounds crazy to try and say it, life happens. And if we spend all of our time and our energy chastising and berating and hammering on somebody for their mistakes, first of all, they're not going to learn from their mistake. That's number one. Number two, mistakes happen. That's why they're called mistakes. They're not called on purposes. But number three, there have been times in my life when someone has extended a kindness to me, and I don't believe in paying things back. I believe in paying things forward. So if someone has done something kind for me, well, then the next opportunity that I have, be it in the next 10 minutes or the next 10 years, if I can pay that kindness forward, well, then I am repaying the person who was kind to me. So the reason that I was kind to you was I was like, I can only imagine the conversations he's having with himself. Why do I need to add to that conversation? The best thing for him in this moment, the best thing for me in this moment is to simply say, you know what? It happens. Reach out. We will do this when you are able to do this. And look, here we are almost a year later. But you know what? Here we are. And obviously, it wasn't time until it is time. And that's the other thing that I say. If I run into a roadblock on something where I'm not able to do something, or I forget to do something, or I can't do something, I say, you know what? It's not time. It's not time until it's time. And then when it is time, magic happens.
It's
So here we
beautiful.
are.
I agree. Yeah, it is beautiful, and I feel way, way, way better than I did a year ago. But it did. It stuck with me, and I'm just impressed with your story and how it just shines in the things that you say in your book, and as well as like the things that you've already shared in this conversation. Kind of bring us back to like the premise of the book of you can't eat love, like how you want to, sometimes we want to feel love from doing these things, but that just isn't how it goes.
Well, about 6, almost 7 years ago now, I hit what I call, a low spot. I don't like to say I hit rock bottom because I feel like that tempts the fates or God or whatever you believe in to say, you think that was rock bottom? I'll show you rock bottom. So, anyway, I simply say I hit a really, really low spot in my life. And I recognized if I was going to move forward, I wanted to be as healthy as I could be mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I thought, well, this is going to be easy. Well, it is not easy because then I started doing the mental and the emotional work. And as a consequence of doing that mental and emotional work, what I came to understand and realize is I was using food as my drug of choice to numb my feelings, to not feel my feelings. And other people use other things. But for me, food was my drug of choice. And as I started recognizing what I was doing with food, I started having to learn my emotions. Now, as I say in the book, it's not that I didn't know the names of emotions. I knew the names of the emotions. I simply didn't know how to name my emotions. And I didn't know how to experience and sit in my emotions. And that is so scary because I could do sad, I could do mad, I could do angry, drop of a hat. It was expressing my sadness, it was feeling joy. I didn't really know how to feel joy, I didn't know how to feel happy. I didn't know how to feel, the entire rainbow of emotions because I hadn't learned it. And I tell people when I was growing up, and this probably happens to so many other people, I know it does because I talk to people all the time. When you express to your parents, I feel really sad about this. And the one instance that sticks out in my mind, we had just moved back to the States from Venezuela after having lived there for 5 years. And it was a very abrupt move. We were not warned that we were moving. And so we went on vacation, and then our parents said, "You're not going back home." And I was very sad, and I told my mother, and she said, "Well, you shouldn't feel that way. You need to get over it." And I was like, "Wait a minute. What do I do with this turmoil that I've got inside of me?" And so I grew up being told you shouldn't feel that way. And then I'm around other people as an adult who are telling me you shouldn't feel that way. So when we're being told that, all that tension builds up inside and we have to do something with it. And usually what ends up happening is we do something to ourselves to release the tension. And then what I discovered is when I did something to release the tension, what I then set off was shame. And I could do shame standing on one foot, one hand tied behind my back, blindfolded. I knew how to do that one really well. And it wasn't until I started accepting what I believed that nobody loved me. The only person who didn't love me was me. And that was when I realized I had a myself-sized hole in my heart. People sometimes talk about having a God-sized hole in their heart. I had a myself-sized hole in my heart that I was filling with food because I didn't love myself. I didn't know how to love myself. And that's really where the hard work of the hard work and the journey began, was learning Leslie is an amazing person. And
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
nothing wrong with her.
Yeah, I think I experienced something similar like after college, I spent a lot of time asking myself like what's wrong with me, and you can always look for answers and stuff, but sometimes it's not there's nothing there. It's like you're looking in vain, and but I really admire you breaking down your story, and especially like some of the things you said in the book about like, like uh there's just some really funny stuff about like brownies that are from the leftovers thing. Those have calories too, and stuff like that. And there's some things that really just struck me about like how we can just change the conversation with ourselves. And I think that's so vital what we do. And I think one thing that you really do, Leslie, that makes it a lot easier for you to do this down the road is you've created this map, you've created this scenario that you can put yourself in and be like, where am I at in terms of this scenario? I believe in God and Jesus, and Jesus taught in parables, and in any parable you can put yourself in any place in that parable to better understand your current situation. So I'll share this one paragraph from your book, and then that will give some people like a little bit of perspective of like where they're at in their journey. So this is page 47. It says, eating unplanned food is just a traffic jam on the journey. Remember to change the radio station or phone a friend. You can even work your way off the freeway so you can move forward on the surface streets, but do not park your car, get out, and walk home. So we're going to be in different lines of traffic all day long in our lives, and it helps to recognize like where am I at in this journey right now. For me, it gives me a lot of peace of mind when I'm able to put myself in something that has a little bit more meaning attached. Like this is a part of me learning what I need to learn most in my life right now. So I just admire like where that came from. Where do you think the bulk of your ideas are coming from or have come from, or what are some of your idea collection methods and writing methods and all that stuff? That's what I'm really fascinated by.
But I talk in stories. First of all, I talk in stories and I draw stories from all kinds of bits and pieces, and then I assemble them into all these things. And oftentimes, because my brain works in such a weird way and I have such a vast amount of interests, I pull these stories together from things that nobody would ever think of pulling stuff from. I mean, for example, when the pandemic began, I was like, I'm going to be so bored and all this. So I started taking pictures of the dogs and posting them on Facebook. And then I would post an after action report because I'm fascinated by the military and World War and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, how many people would expect a 60-plus-year-old mother of 3 children and a wife and all this stuff to be posting after action reports about zombies using photographs of dogs? So these ideas start coming to me, but what they do is they help me to make sense out of stuff that doesn't make sense. And when I came up with the concept of this traffic jam, I actually was having a conversation with somebody and they were like, well, I can't do this. I've got this going on. And I had just driven through traffic. And it just hit me. Okay, almost all of us, unless you live in a really small town that has one street light and not a lot of people, almost all of us have experienced a traffic jam. And I asked the person, I said, when was the last time you were on the Katy Freeway? Because I live just off of the Katy Freeway, which is also known as I-10. I said, when was the last time you were there? And she said, well, just the other day. I said, when you hit that traffic jam that happens at all hours of the day and night, what did you do? And she said, well, I just sat there. I said, yes. And she said, yeah, I sat there and then traffic started moving again and I ended up where I was going. I said, okay. I said, so you understand how to sit in your car in that traffic and you understand that if you wait enough time that the traffic's going to clear up and you're going to eventually get where you're going. And you did something while you were sitting in the traffic, didn't you? She said, yeah, I called, one of my friends and I talked to them for a while. I said, okay. I said, you're telling me that you've run into this problem. Look at it as if you've run into a traffic jam. And I don't know about you, but my life is loaded with traffic jams. And the difference is, what do we do when we hit the traffic jam? And if we start recognizing, I've hit a traffic jam. That's all I've done. I haven't sent my plans off, into outer space. Nothing has flown off of the face of the earth. Gravity is still in control. All these things are still in control. As long as I sit here, even if I don't do anything except breathe, the traffic jam is going to clear. And then I can keep moving forward. And talking about, working your way off the freeway, sometimes where we were going isn't necessarily where we need to end up. And so we can work our way off the freeway, and that helps us get to where we might need to go, or we're able to change our mind. But the number one thing is we don't park that car in the middle of the Katy Freeway, get out, and walk home.
Because walking home takes forever and you probably will get frustrated or blah blah blah, it's just not worth it.
Well, and then your car gets towed and then you get a bill from the towing company and just adds on all kinds of piles and levels of aggravation, right? And
Hmm.
truthfully, in our life, when we hit a traffic jam, if we are not comfortable with ourselves, and if we're not comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, and if we are not able to name what we are feeling, then those traffic jams are going to cause us to park our car, get out, and walk home. Because the level of discomfort is so high that it's more comfortable just to give up and move on than it is to sit there and say, you know what? Right now, I'm having a terrible time with the internet, and trying to get this podcast done is causing me a whole lot of aggravation, and I just don't know what to do, and so many things are out of my control. And I can't do this and I can't do that, and I'm not going to fill in all the blanks because people don't need that filled in. They got their own. I'm just going to give up. Well, what if you were simply to say, you know what? I am having trouble with the internet. I am not understanding how this program is working. I am feeling extremely frustrated right now. I'm even feeling a bit angry, and I'm feeling very sad because I feel as if I'm trying to do this all by myself. So, you know something? Right now, I'm going to take 10 minutes and I'm going to go take a walk. And I'm going to go outside and I'm going to listen to some music or just listen to the birds. And then I'm going to come back in and maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to solve whatever my problem is. At the very least, I will have gotten some sunshine. I will have gotten a little bit of exercise. And possibly I can figure out a different solution.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful when you have those. When I was going to therapy for a little bit, my my psychologist, I think that's what they call the therapist guy. They call them like he called them like plugins, like have these things that kind of help you like plug in to yourself. And at the very least, like for me, one of mine is cold showers, you know. So like at the very least, I know I'll feel at least a little bit better than I did before. And same thing with a run. Like no matter how happy or not happy I'm feeling, I know I'll feel a little bit better after that, and just giving yourself the grace of, I don't have to be feeling perfect, or I don't have to be feeling terrible to go on a run. I can just do it because that is what I would like to do right now.
Right, and give yourself permission to do what you would like to do. Because one of the struggles and tensions that we create within ourselves, which sets us up to having that myself-sized hole in our heart, is we start falling into the land of the shoulda, woulda, couldas. And if we're listening to other people who are not us, people who are not living inside of our skin, people who are not hearing the hamsters running on the wheels inside of our head, and they're telling us, well, you should do this and you should do that, and it just becomes very overwhelming, because then the feeling, the emotion that you start experiencing is failure. And as you're struggling to climb over that failure, you're like, I'm never going to be able to do this. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing all these people who are living these perfect lives, and I'm never going to be able to do this. But here's a secret that I made up. Fail stands for first attempt in learning. So when I fail, of course I did. I'm learning. It's my first attempt in learning. So if I fail, you know what? That's okay. That means that I'm learning and I'm moving forward. But we are only in control of us. There's only one person we're in control of, us. Everybody else is in control of them. And we can start telling ourselves stories about what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is saying, what everybody else intended, and all that stuff. And we can waste all that energy trying to make up stories about people we have no control over. Or we can simply say, you know what, right now, this is what I'm feeling. When those people are coming at you with the shoulda, woulda, couldas, you can smile, you can nod, you can turn your hearing aids down. You can let their comments fall on the floor with a thud and a splat. You do not need to pick them up. And you'll feel the tension inside of you start easing up. And not only that, but then you'll start feeling, I'm taking care of myself. I'm doing what I need to do to honor myself. And that circles us around to boundaries. I have two boundaries. I have the boundary with myself and I have the boundary with everybody else. And part of the boundary with everybody else, they learn from observing the boundary I have with myself. How do I talk to myself? How do I treat myself? What are the things I say about myself? Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we say next and what we do next when we have that first attempt in learning, and I have heard that before. It's just like there needs to be compassion that dominates the conversation, because we need to know that, at least for me, how I look at it is I need to know that there isn't anything that I could do that would cause me to want to throw in the towel, so to speak, like that I will keep helping out myself and reaching out and proving that to myself over and over again with little wins and with things that matter. You know, the way I look at it, Leslie, how I've been looking at it recently is that it's much easier and better, maybe not easier, but it's better to live and learn by design than to live and learn by default. When I'm learning because of, oh no, I didn't check that thing and now I am, it's literally staring me in the face like this was only a one-time thing, blah blah blah. That's frustrating. But if I'm like trying to figure out how this one thing works and if I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't work, cool, cool. Now I can work on that too. And I was also thinking about the traffic jam thing because I think it's such a fascinating metaphor because it doesn't happen every day. It happens randomly. You'll just be driving and all of a sudden it's like, wait, wait, wait. And then there's like, we're slowing down like way too much. And then we get there and it's like a ton of people are looking at this car. And I think it happens with thoughts. Like for me, you know, I'll just be walking around and I'll see like something that reminds me of something that's a little triggering. And now it's like my brain is like paying so much attention to that. And it's like all these other thoughts are going through and it's like, wait, that's what we're focusing on right now. Are we serious? Like let's just yeah, let's acknowledge that. Like, yeah, that happened. Great. This is where we're at now. And then we continue forward because none of these traffic jams can really prevent you from getting where you want to go. I mean, they teach you a lot more than they hurt you, you know. At least they can if you allow it to be that way. Because that's how I look at it now. It's like, well, those things may have happened and yeah, it was crazy in the moment, but you know, now I just express gratitude because that is reminding me to not crash in that way or whatever it was before, you know. It's just I try to bring it back to compassion and gratitude because those are much higher energy emotions. Those are things that are going to lead to a lot more beauty and things down the road. And even if it's a tiny little bit, it always is beautiful to add up.
Well, the other thing is when we show ourselves kindness and compassion and we express gratitude, those hit the reward center of our brain. Okay, so we release those endorphins that feel good. Now, here's the trick: kindness and compassion, our brain sees exactly the same as shaming and berating. So if you shame and berate yourself, you're releasing the same endorphins as you do when you're expressing kindness and gratitude. Which one you know, you've heard of the two-headed monster, which one grows? It's the one that you feed, right? So what I learned and taught myself, and I teach other people, is let's start celebrating the wins, all wins. I don't care how big or small they are. If you're walking along and something triggers you and you recognize, oh, this is what happened, this is what triggered me, this is what set me off, this is where I was trying to go, you know what? I am so proud of myself. Instead of allowing myself to go down the path, I took a moment, I recognized this is what set me off. That is so exciting. Look at me. Look at me. And we start celebrating ourselves in those ways, then our brain starts looking for more instances of that. The book that brought this home to me, now you're going to believe I'm crazy, and that's okay, I am. The book that brought it home to me is called Don't Shoot the Dog. Now, before all the PETA people get up in arms, it has nothing to do with shooting any dogs. What it's about is teaching animals. And the concept is you reward the animal for the behavior you want to continue, and you ignore, absolutely, completely ignore the behavior that you want to stop. Now, what are we basically? We are animals, right? We have that amygdala, you know, that lizard brain or whatever you want to call it, and our brain is made up of all these things, but we've got the reward centers in our brain. So when I started celebrating the tiny wins, then I started looking for more of the tiny wins. And when I started ignoring when I would mess up, when I would not follow a plan, when I would do whatever the heck it was, it doesn't make any difference. I ignored it. I said, you know what? I messed up. I forgive myself. I'm moving on. I didn't spend 3 weeks going on and on and on about how I ate half of a cake in one sitting or anything like that. I just said, you know what? That's what was going on in the moment. Let's just keep moving forward. So you stopping and recognizing that something triggered you, instead of letting the trigger take you off on the path, you stopped and you acknowledged it. Celebrate those moments, because then our brain starts looking for more of them. And the things that you're trying to overcome start fading into the back into the background, because your brain is looking for the things that are exciting. Your brain is looking for more rewards. And those things start fading and they start losing their power because that's not what you're looking for. It's like almost everybody has that kid in class that acts up, right? What is the payoff that that kid gets when they're acting up? It's attention. They have learned, if I behave in this fashion, I'm going to get attention. Now imagine if that behavior was ignored and suddenly the people around him were saying, you know what, I noticed the other day when you were sitting quietly at your desk and doing your work. I really appreciate that. First thing that would happen is he wouldn't trust the remark because he had grown up not being told that he was doing anything good. So can you imagine, as you're acknowledging the trigger, your brain was probably saying, wait a minute, hold on, who are you trying to lie to? So you have to keep going and you keep practicing it and you keep repeating it. And eventually your brain will accept, you know something? He's not trying to trick me. He's not trying to fool me into doing something I don't really want to do. He is really sincere about saying, hey, you saw that trigger. You knew where it was going to take you. That's so amazing. And then the next time you run into a trigger, you know what? Your brain's going to recognize it even faster. And then you celebrate that again. And eventually the triggers will not go away. Let me just make that very clear. Triggers do not go away, but how we handle them gets stronger. So we can either allow them to trigger us and send us in that path, or we can acknowledge and say, you know what? Yeah, it triggered me. This is what I'm doing to take care of myself. And then we keep moving.
Yeah, it makes me think of that like one quote that if you throw your heart over the beam or whatever, like it's like a gymnastics quote. If you throw your heart over the beam, your body will follow. And for me, like celebrating lately, I've been writing down a couple things I celebrate like each day. Like in this moment, I celebrate, this happened, and this happened. And that's extremely powerful because you're enhancing that connection between what your brain is sensing and figuring out to like what the heart is feeling. And it does take time. It takes time, and that is certainly what I'm seeing with a lot of different things. Because I remember times where I kind of grinded on homework and whatever, and then felt terrible after. And it's like we have that memory, but it's more of a guidepost than anything. And I actually made a tweet about this like a little, like maybe an hour or two ago. It's like we all make mistakes, but those don't need to be repeated. You have the memory already there, and you might even have dreams where you do it again or whatever. It's like that's our brains are amazing, and it's just life. And you can learn so much. And for me, and I'd be interested to talk a little more about this, is as I've done any kind of like writing on things of my life and lessons I've learned, there's a sense of release I get, and it's just so therapeutic. So like, what what was that kind of like for you with writing You Can't Eat Love? And it was like a multi-year project. So how did that kind of flow from year to year?
Well, it was terrifying because I realized that I was being honest, I was being real, I was being raw, I wasn't holding anything back. Um, And there are sections where all I did was vomit words. And the words, just literally just vomited out. But the thing was, it wasn't until I was actually, put the last period in the last sentence of the last page that the fear really started ramping up and taking over, because prior to that, all I'd been doing was having a conversation with myself. And I hope as you read the book, that you feel as if you're having a conversation. But what I discovered prior to actually putting any words on a page that made any sense and turned into a book was I was having these unhelpful conversations in my head. And when I started putting those conversations down on paper, I don't call it journaling because I have this thing about journaling. So I write in notebooks. If you look up the definition of journaling, that's what it is. But I write in notebooks. Um, and I write 3 pages every day. And if I'm having a bad day or the hamsters kick off, I'll sit down and write some more. But what I realized was I was getting the thoughts out of my head onto paper. I have an actual two-way conversation with myself on paper. Yes, it does sound kind of crazy, but you know what? It's my life, my paper. I will even say, well, of course you felt that way. This is what was going on. Why wouldn't you be feeling that way? And then when I put my pen down, close the notebook up, I do not reread what I have written. I don't reread it at all, ever. I've got a stack of notebooks about this high, about 2 feet high. I have yet to reread them. Someday when I'm gone, my kids will find my notebooks. They'll say, we got proof our mother is crazy. And I'll say, that's right. But we have hamsters that kick off in our heads. And I'm on a mission to fire all the hamsters, send them back to the pet market, put the pet market out of business. Because I'm sure you can attest to this, because that's what you were talking about in your podcast when I was listening to it just a few minutes before we started talking. When they kick off in your head, they don't go anywhere constructive. And so I found by having that written conversation with myself, I could take those hamsters in a constructive direction. I could problem solve. I could get out what I'm feeling. I could do all of those things. And then when I put that final period on that page, I feel much, much better because the hamsters aren't still going. And so many times, regardless of what we're doing, what demons we're fighting, where we are in our life, what our struggles are, the hamsters that are running in our head keep us from being able to problem solve and move forward. And that's what tempts us so many times to park that car, get out, and walk home.
Hmm. Yeah, that this definitely does attest to a lot of things, is having something that you can pour yourself into, having some kind of like cup or something like that. Or I thought of this crazy analogy, like if you have like this water park, but there's no water in it, but you start like having little ways to like add water in the water park, eventually you're gonna have a fun water park to go in. And it was fueled by your adversity, more or less, and your responses to that adversity. Yeah, I just I admire that, just what you said about having that to, it was a way you've put all that into that, and it helped you make sense of all of it.
Because the other thing that I came to understand, I don't know about you, but people around me tend to get tired of me talking about the same thing over and over and over again. They tend to get a little bit impatient with, hearing my same problem over and over. It's almost like you can see the look on their face, their eyes glaze, rolling back, and and you feel as if nobody is listening to you, and you're desperate for somebody to listen to you. And it's not that you want them to respond back to you. You simply want to know that somebody is really legitimately hearing what you are saying. They're not trying to solve your problem. Because how many times do you have a problem that you don't want solved? I don't know about you, but I got hundreds of problems I really don't want a solution for. I just want somebody to hear me talk about my problem. So in having these written conversations with myself, There is someone always available who doesn't care if I'm talking about the same thing for the 10,000th time in a row. If I'm talking about the same thing at 2 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they don't care. And I get the feedback that I desire. And oftentimes I either am able to solve the problem or I am able to release the problem. Because about 99% of our problems that we create in our head, we just need to release, right? They're not helpful. They're not moving us forward. So if we can start to develop a relationship with ourself, which I call my very best friend in the whole wide world, which is you, me. If we can start having that relationship with ourselves, then we start feeling that my self-sized hole in our heart filling with love because we're being heard. Our feelings, our thoughts are being acknowledged. We're not being ignored. We're not getting that glazed over look. We're being validated.
Yeah.
We're important.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll probably be a little bit. Yeah, I think just having compassion on ourselves in the moment is everything because we're not going to get this moment back. And I think of it as like just being in a mine of life, and there's different gems, there's different crystals that are there, and you don't know if those will be in the next mine you're in. So take what you can and embrace them, enjoy them, and build that relationship with yourself while you're at that rock bottom, or when you're stuck in that mine that seems really dark. Find a way to make a flashlight to give yourself some direction. And even if it makes no sense to anybody else but yourself, some things I've created for myself, I swear they probably will make no sense to anybody else, but I listen to them, like my identity tape, things like that. They give me direction, and that it helps me to check in with myself and feel connected with myself, and that's vital. So I wanted to close this off, Leslie, with probably the line that like touched me the most of your book so far, and there'll probably be at least one or two more, the ones that really have hit. And I actually sent this one to you over Podmatch not too long ago, and I'm like, this paragraph just needs to be heard. So it was just talking about like taking care of some of these things. Is if you have trouble putting all those monsters back in the basement or cellar, just holler. I will help you put all those monsters back in so they cannot get out. I will even brace the door while you lock all the locks. You are worth it. So it just shows you're valuing so much who are you becoming instead of who you've been. And you love that so much of what you are becoming that you are willing to go this extra mile and help out in that way. And we didn't even go anywhere as far as like this conversation. Like we could have gone so many other places, but I think this is at least a start for your work. It's brilliant. It's making a real difference. I think it has so much more to do with just like food, getting over struggles with food. I think it really applies to any kind of struggle with any kind of my self-sized hole, or we're struggling to love ourselves for ourselves in despite of everything. I just love your work and what you're doing. So thank you for putting it out there. And I've thought multiple times, like, I'm really glad that Leslie decided this is worth getting out there, and I'm gonna put this out there and just let it, whatever happens happen, because it certainly made a difference for me, and it definitely is inspirational. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And, the book is not about losing weight. The book is about learning to love yourself. And
Yeah.
it's important to me that other people realize that they are valuable. And it's as I say at the end of the book, you are enough. And if you don't believe it, I'll believe it for you until you are able to believe it for yourself.
Hmm. It's beautiful. Yeah. It makes you think of like, what I believe about God is he always sees us as being enough, but we don't want to accept that sometimes. And lo and behold, we have experiences that help us to see, oh wow, I am pretty, you know, definitely was designed for a great purpose, for good things, and I'm thankful for that, and the not giving up on, he never gives up on any of us. So yeah. yeah, I'm definitely excited to finish up the book and yeah, just to talk with you more about this. But yeah, I agree. Just anybody that wants to better understand the relationship with themselves, like this book has helped me a lot. So
Oh, well, thank you. That means a lot to me.
yeah.
And
So
I hope we
what?
can talk again soon.
Yeah, that'd be good. What else are you working on right now, and how can we check out the book?
The book is, well, if you want to find out anything about me, the best place to go is the website, which is youcan'teatlove.com. What I'm working on right now is going through and doing some tweaking of the book. And I'm also about to publish the prequel to the book, which is the story of how I didn't think God was anywhere, but he showed me that he was there the entire time. So I'm publishing the prequel to You Can't Eat Love. August 1st is the publication date. But that book is
Wow.
called The Journey from Failing to Healing.
Oh, cool.
So that one will be out.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you reached out to me like first time was like back in like October 2021. So it took a while, but it was definitely really wonderful having you on and I look forward
It wasn't
to
time
the next
until it
time.
was time.
Yeah, now is a wonderful time to do it. So, but yeah, I'll have links to all that in the show notes and way to go on getting that out and hopefully I'll be able to talk with you more about the writing process and stuff. It just gets me excited hearing your perspectives about that. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Leslie.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hmm